a number on it. Normally, you stub it and you think, oh, for sure, I broke my fucking toe, when you stub it really hard, but in 10 minutes, it kind of goes away. This
Right.
one, hours later, it still hurts like hell. So, yeah. Got the video running. And hey, welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And this is where we talk about our various aches and pains and home remedies, how to cure them. Oh, basically, we
Very
do
few
some.
things worse than stubbing your toe, though. I got to tell you,
Oh,
that puts a
yeah.
damper on the whole day.
Yeah, I said I did it 2 hours ago. It still feels like I just did it. So yeah, it hurts. Hey, how you doing today?
Doing great. How about you, Barry?
Okay. It's very cold and gray today. We've had here in Cleveland, we've had a very mild winter. As a matter of fact, I just heard that on the news like this morning or yesterday morning that as of January 14th, first half of winter is one of the mildest on record, like maybe second mildest, if not
Yeah.
first.
We've been hearing that about you
Something.
guys out here, too.
Yeah, but this guy, the weather guy, keeps using the word backloaded. Like, it's
Foreboding.
gonna, yeah, it's gonna like go out into June or something like
How do
that.
they know that?
No, you know what? How about the Farmer's Almanac? You ever get one of those?
I have actually a long time ago.
Yeah,
My
same here.
my stepfather says he carries one in his back pocket.
Same thing, man. I got one of those some years ago too, and it's like they will say, 6 months out on this weekend, this region is going to get hit with this kind of weather.
Yeah.
What? And a lot of people swear by that. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I haven't really. I don't. It's not like I follow the Farmer's Almanac or anything, but it must have been popular for some reason. I mean, they might have gotten it right quite a few times. I have no idea.
I would love to know the stats. I bet we could Google that too. I bet we could come up with stats on that. But whatever. Maybe another day. I'll Google that for another day. Hey, speaking to over 50 starting over, we like to talk about tips and tricks and things like that. And one of the things I was going to share last week, but man, we got on a tangent. What did we talk about that went way off the rails? I don't remember.
I think it was Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. I started with the whole he went into relationships and all that, and then you're like, well, I want to know why he doesn't what how did he word it? Why he can't say that he believes in God forthcoming, right off the bat.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So we went on a tangent with that.
It was fun.
So it was, and it's something we're always going to come back to and have a lot of fun with. I thought a lot about that, as a matter of fact, over the last week. There's so many ways that can go. But to the over 50 starting over stuff, a lot of us, when we start a new venture, you have to think about your online presence. And with that, number one is establishing a website with your vital information. That's your headquarters. But I got to tell you something that a lot of people don't know about is Google My Business is right up there with as important as your website today, because this is where you give Google all your information about what you have to offer. In fact, I think Google is trying to usurp the whole, and create a website there, so to speak, a Google website. I think Google is trying to take over that space. They certainly haven't as of now, but the Google My Business aspect is super important, that you put in your description, your location, your name, address, and phone number. And that should be consistent with Google on your website, on your social media, because all search engines triangulate all this information. And if there are discrepancies, it will confuse all of the mega directories and subdirectories that are out there. So then your search engine results, page results, how you rank in your search engine results will lag as a result. That actually isn't even what I wanted to talk about as the tip. But as I started talking, it did occur to me to mention the importance of Google My Business. The tip I want to talk about is when you get your initial website established, when you get your Google My Business page in sync with the information that you put on your website, you're then going to find if you want to generate awareness about your product or service, you're gonna want to get on social media and create some awareness and hopefully drive some traffic to your website. Now, if you're creating all these blog posts, or I should say, social media posts, and that when you're thinking social media posts, you might want to think about blog posts too. Are your social media posts long enough, meaty enough to use as blog posts? Well, if they are, then so this is what you post on your website. Post excerpts of them on your social media that will hopefully drive people back to your website and blog to read them. But if you're doing all of that, don't waste all your time and effort. Like, are you going to force yourself to post, say, 3 times a week for a year? And what is that? 3 times a week that's approximately, I'm thinking 150.
About 150.
Yeah, about 150 blog posts for the year. That's a lot of content to write. That's a lot of concentration to put out there. What if you harnessed all of that? You kept all of that material and then started making ebooks out of it, maybe a whole book. All right. So when you start thinking that way, and you really should. So if you're starting off on your new venture, you need to establish that you have an expertise in it. So you need to write about it. As you're writing about it, you're going to Google some stuff. You are going to learn. You are going to be, even if you thought you were very knowledgeable about your subject matter in the beginning, when you start writing about it, you're going to start Googling additional facts. You are going to become the expert in this niche field of yours. So harness the writing. Start to think in ebook format all the way to full book. Now, when you start doing that, you're going to realize that if you've been writing in a linear fashion, such as Google Docs, or even if you're using Microsoft Word or some kind of Word document program, then you're writing very linearly. And if you start coming up with pure chapters and subchapters, pages to those chapters, you're going to find very quickly you want to move those around as they start taking more and more of a form on. And the tool that I found to be so incredibly useful to that is called Scrivener, Scrivener. And most authors use it. And this is where I found it, is on a podcast by, self-publishing and so on. And most authors use this because it takes, and I'm trying to talk about this for podcasters who are listening to this primarily, rather than the YouTube people who are looking at it. I can cut to a screenshot of Scrivener and what it looks like, but to explain it for just listeners that may be on their exercise bike or whatever, it looks like just on your desktop with a bunch of folders inside of those folders, and documents inside of those folders. It works like that. And those documents that are in those, so think of those folders as chapters, and those subfolders as maybe subchapters, and then those individual documents as pages, individual pages, which all of these you can move around at will. All right. So you can take this page, move it into a different chapter so quickly and so easily. And it makes organizing your book, your ebook, whatever that may be, infinitely easier. It keeps track of. So if you're back to the whole metaphor of just making all of these social media posts, 150 of those over a year, well, now you have them. And if you use Scrivener, you have each of those on an individual page. And you might want to start putting those together as chapters and then come up with an ebook that you can offer as a freebie on your website. So that's my big tip. And that's something I've been using Scrivener for about 2 years now, and I think it's amazing.
So most of that stuff I've never heard of before,
Of
Barry.
course, most people haven't.
So, I mean, I know that you do a blog, and by the way, the stuff I've seen you write has been really amazing. You're a very good writer. Is that what you're doing? I mean, are you putting that together for yourself?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and I want to see if I should have checked this out. Screen share. Yeah, for those watching on YouTube, I'm going over to my Scrivener document to show it to you.
See what that looks like.
Can you see it? Let me know when you see it.
Not yet.
Okay. It generally takes a minute to go over for some reason. Okay, but yes, I have an entire book put together on all of online marketing, from your very basics from finding your passion, which is my freebie that I'm putting finishing touches on, to naming your company and the importance of, can you see it? Anything? What do you see right now, Merle?
I see you. If it looks like you, then it's on.
No.
That was a joke.
Should be seeing. Well, interesting. Okay.
Oh, well.
I'm going to go back to try to get us back onto YouTube here. And here I see a start sharing button.
Oh, there, something's happening. I saw a handsome guy there for a second.
Well, I hit start sharing. So
naming your new company. Should you consider the domain name?
Yes, there you see it. Do you see this sidebar?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yes. These are the individual folders with your individual documents underneath of that, subfolders. And so I've made these individual chapters. You see intro, mod 1, module 2, module 3. These are my online course that I really putting finishing touches on. I've created all of this copy that you see. And the way I do this stuff is I head all of these with an individual video to give explanation, because that's the way most people want to see things today, is they want them explained. Give me the overview very quickly. And if I want more details, I'll go into your individual copy and all of that. But my point really is to see the organization of this, and notice that if I'm choosing your company name and I say, wow, you know what, I'm going to put that into my first chapter rather than in that preliminary stage folder that I currently have it in, I could just drag and drop it right in there. And so you move those pages around wherever you want. I'm telling you, as somebody that's done tons and tons of writing for years, if you're just going down a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document, you're going to just get lost. You're going to, where was that thing that I wrote about 3 weeks ago? Because I think that this thing I just wrote about today would go with that. And so Scrivener gives you this ability. Oh, and by the way, it's about $35.
Ooh,
I paid for it 2 weeks ago. Oh, it's in the amount of time and effort and energy that it saves, making you more productive, pays for itself within the first half day, I would say. So I'm going to try to undo that now, stop sharing, and hopefully I don't lose you. Do you see me again?
I see you. You're back.
Okay,
good job, Barry.
Hey, look at that. So we'll utilize that more in the future. But I want to keep everything very friendly for people that are listening on a podcast and don't have the advantage of seeing the video. But yeah, Scrivener is a very important tool for us writers that, once again, you want to repurpose your copy. You don't want to keep writing all this stuff and putting it out into the vacuum that is known as social media, where it is then forgotten about. Accumulate a bunch of this stuff, make blog posts out of them, make ebooks, that you can use as freebies that people can then sign up to your list, and you capture their name and get a prospect, and from there you might even want to put a full book together. So that is your big O5O tip for today. What did you think of that one?
I really like that. And as a matter of fact, I've considered writing a book myself. And so I did the old open up Word and just start writing a bunch of stuff. And then I came to a roadblock, the exact roadblock you're talking about, which was, well, how do I organize this? How do I move stuff around? And it just, I never passed the roadblock. So this looks like a really neat idea and an inexpensive idea to really keep your thoughts organized and in a way to really keep building it forward. I love it.
And that's a really good point, because even if you're a hobbyist, everybody has the book in them, as we know. You know that expression. So even if you're a hobbyist, it's $35. Ask for it for your birthday. Yeah, I mean, get it and start messing around with it, because you'll find that, just as you illustrated, Merle, that instead of hitting that roadblock, that if you find that you have a bunch of disjointed ideas that you've been accumulating, all of a sudden you can start putting them together into certain chapters, and it'll encourage you, I think, to move forward. It'll keep the excitement going when you see things start to take form, rather than get the discouragement of, I forgot where I was, I can't keep it organized in my head, and all those things. So it makes it a lot more fun. And you know what? I've listened to so many podcasts about books. So if you like doing fiction and things like that, you need to start with that outline before. You don't just start writing page one. And so there I was. It was a dark, starry night, and that kind of thing. You don't know where it's going to go. You need to have act one, act two, act three, and those kind of things kind of laid out. So start your chapters first, start the outline, then start writing a page.
Man, that's good advice, because that's I tried to do it both ways at the same time. So, I start writing, and I'm like, maybe I should put an outline together and start doing that. And then, no, I'm going back to it was a dark, starry night.
Hey, you know what? The same kind of thing applies to video. Video is very difficult for most of us starting out. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from a podcast a couple years ago was, shoot a video. Just use your phone, your smartphone, and shoot a video every day for 30 days. 60 days, something like that. By the time you get 30 videos under your belt, you will be so much better. And even if, hey, I'm on vacation, I don't really have it in me, and I had too many drinks at dinner, still shoot it. Doesn't matter. Just stay with it. You will become so much better at doing video. So I do a lot of video with my courses, with my promos, and so on. And I used to try to memorize a script. I'd write out a script and try to memorize it. Now, mind you, I talked about Toastmasters before too. Right. And do not underestimate the power of Toastmasters. It's huge. And so I used to do the same thing with my speeches with Toastmasters, and that is try to memorize the whole damn thing. And it's a horrible way to go, because you lose your authenticity. You can see somebody trying to read the teleprompter in their mind, as they deliver this, and it just doesn't come off. So what you need to do is memorize your outline, like about 4 different things. Or maybe 3. You have a beginning, you have a middle, and you have an end. And all you need to do is practice speaking to those 3 different subject matters. You know the main points that you want to make in each of those, and you're going to say it differently every time. But if you rehearse it about 6 or 7 times, you're going to start coming back to the best of each one of those, and then you're going to start delivering a very good speech or video each and every one of those times. So it's called chunking. Chunking it together.
That's great advice, Barry. And in my experience, the same thing is that when you practice it that way, once you get in front of your audience, because you haven't memorized it word for word, it's very easy then for you to shoot from the hip if you need to. You can change things up a little bit and still keep your place. That's just great advice, Barry.
And additionally, to capitalize with what you're saying, so when you're doing it in front of an audience and then they start asking you impromptu questions, instead of that throwing you off your whole game, you're already ready. You've analyzed it from all these different avenues, but you just decided, like, here is my best pitch. So this is what I talk about. But when they start asking you questions, you've already practiced it from so many different directions. You welcome that. It gives you a fresh take.
I've had that experience before when they ask the questions and I say, I'm really glad you asked that question because I really am. Yeah, I'm really ready for this.
Yeah, no, so that's the best advice I can give somebody for starting out with this stuff is both writing and with video. Do it every day. Do a 30-day challenge. Do both of those every day. And you don't have to be perfect at it. That same 30-day advice that I gave for videos absolutely works for writing. Though I would definitely challenge yourself for way more than 30 days at a time. Writing is a talent that even if you think that you're not good at it, you will get way better at it if you practice it every day. The other thing that happens with writing is that when you force yourself to do it every day, it becomes this kind of catharsis thing. The first that if you do the mind dump and in the mornings or whenever your best time is, for most people is mornings. And when you do it as a mind dump, that you will just get through all the trivial stuff at first, and it will start to lead to more profound things that will start to take shape over time, as long as you stick with it.
So just get it down there then, and you can build off of it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing that causes people to just not go forward, at least in my case. Writing isn't my favorite thing to do. I think I'm pretty good at it, but when I've sat down and said, hey, I'm going to write this, and then that doesn't really look good, and then you get discouraged.
Because you're looking for perfection right out of the gate. Yep. And you just got to keep writing, and strip away all the crap. Because it'll start to evolve into gems. Mm-hmm. As you massage it and move forward. As you probably know, I started out college in fine art, and then I went into graphic design later on when I really discovered what it was. I like the problem-solving solution. And that's what graphic design is you got a kind of a commercial art problem, and you give a visual or even audio or whatever, some kind of identity, an artistic solution to that marketing problem.
Right.
But so starting out in fine art is what you learn about painting is you do your underpainting first. You do it with a sketch, then you do kind of a wash of different sepia tones or browns or whatever, and you continue to add to it. So even whether you're drawing or whether you're painting, you start out with the broad thing. Then you gradually get more detailed over the whole canvas at the whole time. If you start off in a corner and start drawing or painting, by the time you get to the other side of it, it's so out of proportion and out of whack with what you started with. That's how everything is, I find. This is how I approach.
Yeah. I think you're
so if you put the framework, you start with the framework, and then you continue to build on it. So it's necessary. You build a house, you don't start in the corner and lay down a little concrete and put some wood up over here and then put the siding on it and then build out from there. No, you put the foundation down first, you build the frame. Same thing. With everything.
Now I know why all of my art sucks. So I'm going to have to start in that corner.
All new to implement. Okay, so that's my big O5O stuff. What's new in your world? Anything going on over there? How was your day?
Well, it started out just beautifully. It's a beautiful Thursday. Well, it's not really that beautiful out there, actually. It's kind
Come
of
on, it's LA.
dark.
It should be 72 and sunny right now.
Yeah, everything's relative, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's been in the 50s and 60s out here. I remember, when I lived in Cleveland and in the middle of winter, it would be 55, and I'd go out with my shorts and my tank
Yeah.
top, and you'd
Yeah.
think it was summertime. And out here, man, people are wearing, Nanook of the North wear
Oh,
when it's
sure.
55 degrees because,
Sure.
it's all relative. You just can't. It's just not the same. But we're supposed to get rain today, so
Mm,
that's an exciting event here in Los Angeles. You never know
it
what can
is.
happen when it rains. In Cleveland, when it rains, it just rains. It could
It's
possibly
another
flood.
day.
But
Yeah.
here when it rains,
It's
if it
headlines.
rains for a while, landslides start to happen.
That's
And
true.
so we have fire season, we have landslide season, and then we have summer.
That's very true. I was going to say, though, about the 55-degree thing. Don't underestimate a big difference between 55 degrees in Cleveland and 55 in LA is humidity. You
Oh,
guys don't have the humidity, and it makes a big difference.
wow.
It's almost like here with humidity, it gives you a little bit of a blanket, to wrap you in.
Really?
Man, when you
Because
don't have that humidity, it's like the air just escapes you. And I
That
think,
wasn't my experience. Well, when I first moved to Colorado, I remember I was kind of bummed out because I'd finally moved to warm weather down in Texas, and then I got transferred up to Colorado, and I thought, man, I got to deal with the snow again. And I remember the first day it snowed, I had to. It was snowing outside. I was in my office, and I left something in my car, and I went out there without my jacket on, and I
mhm,
got something. I'm a freeze baby. But I was
mhm.
out there getting stuff out there, and I realized I really wasn't cold. And so what I found is without the humidity, it's not as cold.
Mm.
But
I
the
kind of find
opposite,
the opposite.
opposite is in the summertime.
Oh,
Because
oh,
here in the
oh,
valley, it'll get, the highest it ever got here since I've lived here was 123 degrees. I was standing outside of the bank.
oh,
I looked up and it was 123. Okay, that was the hottest day of my life. I thought
yeah,
things were going to spontaneously start to catch on fire.
sure.
It felt like we were underneath of a not a magnifying glass. When you were a kid and you'd burn things up.
Yeah,
It felt
yeah.
like we were under a magnifying glass. But I can tell you that if it had been humid as well, I think people would not have survived that. It was a dry heat, so it's
Agreed.
something we could handle. I'm telling you, 100 degrees here is like 85
Mm,
in Cleveland. In
mm,
fact, 85 might even be more miserable in Cleveland because
mm.
of the humidity. I mean, I remember a friend of mine used to say, it's not the humidity, it's the humility. It's a humiliator. But you move out here, and Anne Marie and we would make fun of people because as soon as it dipped below 60, people are wearing big furry coats and furry
Sure.
hats and furry boots. And what wimpy people. A year later, we were doing the same thing.
Oh, I totally get it. I had the same experience about 15 years ago or so. A buddy of mine, we went out to visit a friend in San Diego. And so it's 70 degrees out there, and we're in our shorts and short sleeve t-shirts and all that.
Right.
Everything is still under construction in San Diego. There's just cranes everywhere all the time. It's been, for the last 15, 20 years, it's been just building up like crazy. But all the construction people are in long pants, long sleeve shirts, sweaters, and stuff
Right.
like that in 70 degrees,
Yep.
working like crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
it's a totally, and then another thing is, Lisa and I go to Sarasota every year at the end of
Right. Right.
February.
Right.
And so there's a whole nother animal. So they got the humidity and the direct sun. I got to tell you, if it's over 75 and we're down there, it's uncomfortable.
It
That
can be
sun is
really.
direct.
Yeah. Yep. I
That sun
agree.
is hot
You got to be
down.
careful. I mean, you coming from Ohio down
Yeah.
there and getting in the sun. It's a
Oh, I'm
different
very.
sun down there.
Oh, we're very careful. And when we go to the beach when it's very direct like that, it's like an hour and a half. And I'm full sunscreen head to toe every day too.
Ah, good.
And but an hour and a half in that, especially at 75 plus in Florida, man, that's a whole nother thing. But And then yet another thing that you're so used to and familiar with that was brand new to me, coming out and seeing you some months ago, I did not know about these microclimates. So we fly into,
Oh
Lisa and I
yeah.
fly into San Diego or San Francisco. It's like 60 degrees or something, but it was a very chilly 60
Right.
degrees. And so we got
Yes.
out of there pretty quick. We weren't that interested. She's been to San Francisco before. My first time, but I'm not that interested in it. So then we just got our car, rented our car. We went to San, starts with a V,
Sans.
Fernando. No, that's
Wait,
Fernando. I forget right now.
you
I
said
should
it
have pulled
starts
up
with
a
a
map.
B.
V. Um,
San. Oh man, Anne
or
Marie's gonna get me for this.
Yeah, I know. I should have pulled up a map. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. But so, maybe an hour south, and we pull out, park the car, we go to the beach, and, have this really nice time. It's 70 degrees, sunny, it's beautiful.
Is
And
this
it's
in
kind of,
Monterey?
no, because
No.
then we went to Monterey, and it
Okay.
was
Right.
60 again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's
know?
crazy, right? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought all of Southern California, I know San Francisco isn't Southern, but so we go through the Big Sur, which was really fantastic.
Oh,
It was
so beautiful.
so beautiful, so long. What is it? 90 miles, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sure. And by the time you get to the southern end of it, you hit what's that first town as you get out of the Big Sur, which looks
Well,
so cool that I just wanted whole time, man. I'm looking at the coastal town of it, and I'm like, man, I need like a month with my bike right there and just going through all of those neighborhoods for
it's
a
a
solid
beautiful
month.
area. It really
Oh, it
is.
certainly is. And
It's
I
good
don't
for the
remember.
soul.
It sure is. It
It
sure
really
is.
is.
And then you look to the left up as you go up on the mountainside, and those same towns get very ritzy as they go up, cascading up the mountain there a little bit. And it's just the whole area. Being such an avid cyclist, I just want you get very intimate with an area when you know it by bike because it's the perfect pace. Like walking is way too slow. Jogging would be okay, but you get too tired. Going in your car is too fast, even if you think you're driving slow. Biking is just the perfect pace. You see everything. You get to know an area intimately. It's the best way to get to know a new town that you get to.
When we were traveling up and down Big Sur on the Pacific Coast Highway, I saw a lot of cyclists that were making
Me
that
too.
90-mile trek.
Crazy.
I thought they were crazy too. The road is so narrow. First of all, it'd be easy to get bumped off. But you know what else I saw is I saw a lot of those tandem bikes. So couples were doing it, and they were, they had their luggage on the bike and everything. And I talked to a few of them. Boy, they were so excited to be out there and doing that and everything. And a lot of the people I saw were older than me. I mean, there were people in their 70s doing it, and I was really inspired by that.
Well, I was inspired, but I thought they were crazy. I would never do it. Though, as you said, the roads are way too narrow. There's not real bike lanes, and you're talking edge of a mountain. And not only that, but
huge
we're
hills.
Talking mountains.
Yeah, they're huge hills. And these people were just doing it like it was nothing. And so my inspiration wasn't to have me and Anne Marie do that someday. But I thought, gosh, look at these people. I mean, they're 20 some years older than me, and they're conquering these mountains. And that's what I want to be. I want to be able to do that too.
Well, I remember it makes me think of your
not on Pacific Coast Highway though.
No, but your stories of when you moved to Colorado and you were just mountain biking back then. You didn't know better. I didn't know better, 10 plus years ago either. That mountain bike, I'd be like mountain biking out here with a group of people, which I don't do much. I usually bike mostly by myself. I'd be with a group of people like, why is that old lady smoking me on that bike?
It's her bike. Yeah. I didn't get that either.
Bike. Yeah, it's the bike. So I remember your stories of you started joining these biking
Was the
tours
ALS thing where it was the 150-mile ride. So I did
up and
the
down mountains.
yeah, and
Hundred,
I'm doing this on a mountain bike, and
yeah.
I remember I'd show up to these, and everybody had a road bike, and they'd say, you're crazy," and I'm thinking, why are they saying that? And because on a mountain bike you're more upright, I don't want to be all
Yes.
bent over and everything like
Yes.
they
Yes.
were. I thought they thought I was crazy because I wouldn't get the wind resistance,
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
they'd finish like 3 or 4 hours before me.
It took me a while to figure that out. The tires are wider, so you got more resistance on the road, and the tires are smaller, so you don't get the same
Inertia thing,
circumference.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
However, I can tell you, Barry, going down those mountains on a mountain bike, I felt a lot safer.
Safe
As
for
one
sure.
time I did it with
You
my
hit a
road,
few rocks, and
just the
you could
pep.
be.
Yeah. I got
Yeah,
my mountain bike up to 49.9 miles per hour one time going
that would
down
be
the hill.
scary.
Okay, but that was on my mountain bike.
Yeah.
Imagine on your mountain, but on a road bike, it's a lot scarier because
You feel a lot more vulnerable, don't
yes,
you?
yes, yes.
Yeah, those skinny tires.
Woo.
But I have to say now, I bought my a few years ago, a couple of years ago, whatever. I bought my Jameis hybrid, and oh god, I love it. It's the best bike I've ever owned. It is basically it's a road bike, but just has the straight upright handlebars because I can't take that
Yeah,
whole bending way over
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Me neither.
And it
How do people do
flies,
that?
man. It's
Oh,
really
I bet
light.
Jameson's a
Yeah,
great name for bikes too.
yeah, it's a lot of
Good for
fun.
you.
Yeah, it's so fun. Well,
Well,
it makes all the difference in the world. Now I
it
get with a
does.
buddy who's on their mountain bike, and I'm like, "Oh, you poor fool," you
See, but
know.
that's the thing is, okay, so I have, and he's actually he watches the show, Tim, and Tim got a new bike, and he asked me to come out there, and my bike's several years old, and he's got all the new technology and everything, and he was in better shape than me, and he's like, "Let's go for this ride." Oh, he nearly wiped me out there. I could not keep up with him.
Just
I was
mountain
so
bikes alone.
discouraged. And I
Haven't you
was on a
found?
road bike though, and he was on a
Oh,
new road. See, that's the thing is the newer road bikes. I don't know. Maybe it's my imagination. My brother's got a newer bike too. I can't keep up with him on my bike. Mine's from the '90s. I don't know. Maybe
it's
it's me, but
no, dude.
I
Those
think
things
that.
they're getting lighter, and the
Mhm.
tires get bigger. Okay,
Okay,
like
I
in
feel a lot better
circumference.
now.
Yeah, no, it's true. They're much. Our bikes today just keep getting lighter with the crow. Is it called chromoly? The what's
Yeah, that's it. Chromoly. Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm thinking carbon fiber. That's what it is.
Oh,
Like I
oh,
have
well, that's
carbon
even
fiber
yeah.
forks because your forks
You're
are the
right. You're
heaviest
right.
part of a bike because they're
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
thick. So the carbon fiber, I'm sure you do too. Some bikes, very expensive, are 100% carbon fiber.
I
They're
know.
titanium. Titanium's supposed
The
to be the
sky's the
shit.
limit on how much you can spend on a
Oh
bicycle now. You
yeah,
might as well buy a
four,
car.
five, $6,000.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Easy.
Okay. Now that we educated everybody on bicycling, I was going through Google News today. I came across so much interesting stuff, and I don't even know where to start or where to stop. But oh yeah. So I was reading about. I bet you haven't heard about this because the first time I heard about it, there's a company out there creating these new contact lenses that are
Hmm.
smart contact lenses
Ah,
that, yeah, you got your smartphone information in front of your eyeballs.
you're
Okay, so
kidding me.
literally, so you look to the right or left, whatever. You look to the left and you see the weather forecast. That's because that's what you're looking for. Now, next to that is a little arrow. If you stare at that arrow, it unfolds a menu where it gives you the extended forecast type of stuff.
Oh
You
my
want to do a
gosh.
Google search or whatever, all of that stuff is going to be right there. Your calendar with the reminders, all these different things, right? Oh, so we talked about doing speeches here a few minutes ago. You
Oh,
got the
your notes.
teleprompter. Yeah, right in front of your eyeballs. Yeah, like the
Okay.
teleprompter.
This
They're
is
working on this. They say it's a couple years away yet. Yeah.
okay. How are professors going to keep their students from cheating on tests?
Uh,
That's what I'm
how do
thinking.
they do it now?
I don't know.
How do you do it now? I had that sincere question because I don't have kids, but they got smart technology with them in school. How do you even keep their attention? How do you have them take? I'm
I don't
sure.
know.
Okay, you take their electronics away to take a test. I assume. I don't know about that even because aren't they taking their tests using their electronics? I
Yeah,
think so.
it's a
You
new
should know
day.
that.
I don't
You should
know.
know that. Really?
No,
We need.
it's been a while since I've been taking tests in college.
Well, but you got kids. So I was
Yeah,
gonna say we need
I'll
to
have to ask them.
ask a millennial, but millennials are older now,
Yes.
and this, for whatever reason, these articles I was reading got me on a different rabbit hole where I had to look up Generation Z. All right.
That's the generation to look out for, man. These guys are way different than the millennials.
Yes. Yeah.
They're
They're talking
they're
like,
polar opposites.
in fact, that's what I was reading because I don't know much about these kids. They seem to lean more conservative.
Big
Well,
time.
every generation wants to be the opposite of
It's
their
the
parents.
pendulum effect, right? It's like if your
It
parents
is.
say yes, then you're no.
Yeah,
It's black, it's white. I didn't. I was
absolutely.
the same way. So it's. I talk about this all the time. I mean, it's the pendulum effect. It's been in effect ever since the country started, and you'll go way to the left, and then next generation you're going to go way to the right. That's how we even ourselves out here, and it's interesting because these people in the Z generation are really picking up on things like Dennis Prager's. He's got a 5-minute thing that comes out, and it's perfect. They're educational podcasts that are 5 minutes long, and for this generation, we're all kind of attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
5 minutes, and it's got graphics in it, and these kids are eating it up. I just read an article in the New York Times about it, and of course they're very concerned about this, but I think it's fantastic.
No, I think that's interesting. What I started wondering about as you were talking, I like every young person when I was in college, and well, you knew me better than anyone in college. A huge rock and roll head, needed my Walkman back then,
Right,
and
right.
needed my Billy
Billy Idol.
Idol.
Yeah.
and all the various, and then went into the 90s, and I loved 90s grunge music.
Yeah.
I mean, name them all. I liked all of them. Stone Temple Pilots was really good. Pearl Jam, REM, all that. That's when I stopped. Okay, so by the end of the 90s, I started listening to NPR in the car at all times and talk radio, and I just got away from it. Here's my question. We're talking about Generation Z. When we were in college, that was like the beginning of hip hop. And that turned
Right,
into
right.
full-fledged rap and all of that, which is just seems like it's just kept a steady presence to this day. What's going on with music now? See, we were talking about the pendulum swinging, and every generation wants their own music, which is different from yours, which is, hip hop was just the new rock and roll. And what I mean by that is rock and roll was just piss your parents off, make them think it's just a bunch of yelling and screaming. Heard that my entire childhood. And so that's all hip hop was the next generation. Piss the rock and roll people off with this horrible music that's not really music. Well, what's the younger generation doing to piss off their parents music wise? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's really odd because first off, I'm like you. I kind of I guess as you get older, you get away from these things. And so Barry, as far as music is concerned, I am not cool at all.
Yeah.
I listen to talk radio,
Yeah.
but Anne Marie is pretty up on this stuff, and like I don't listen to the radio. She does every once in a while, and she turned me on to this guy that we saw on New Year's Eve. I'm gonna get this wrong. Post something is the guy's name. I can't remember his name. I bet my kids are gonna laugh about
Total
this,
loss
but
here.
I was listening to this, and I'm like, this is so. All the kids like this. I mean, what do they like about it? It's so like packaged and commercialized and
Oh,
bubblegum and the voice is so like digitally enhanced that I don't know.
auto-tune.
It just seemed like it wasn't very creative at all. And this guy was
Sure.
performing on New Year's Eve. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that like him. I didn't, but and then the guy's got tattoos all over his face. Anne Marie was telling me, well, he just got a new one. Look at that one. And I'm thinking, why would you tattoo up your face in the first place? But it just, I don't know. There wasn't anything that it didn't seem to have the charisma that a lot of the music we used to listen to did.
Sure.
But I know our parents probably said the exact same thing about us. So
couldn't understand what they were saying because they were yelling the whole and screaming and everything. That Generation Z article said that they're anti-tattoo.
Oh,
interesting.
Thank God.
See, so it went tattoo all the way up and down your arms, and now you got to put it on your face. Now it's like, well, nothing else to do, so let's go anti-tattoo now. Agreed. And okay, so the surface music is what I call it, what you're alluding to. So I go to the gym, cannot wait to get my earbuds in because that music is it's top 40 stuff from what I understand. Bubblegum, surface, it's totally computer generated with the backbeat. Instead of a drummer, you got that impossibly fast drum beat going on in the background,
right,
as it's computer. And then, as you say, the auto-tune vocals to everything. It sounds like you're singing right through a synthesizer. Oh,
exactly.
It's horrible. It's horrible. But hey, we both know some names out there. So let's, I know Katy Perry, Gwen Stefani, but she's been around for a long time.
Yeah, these are old people now.
Yeah, J-Lo, who's been around a long time, is doing the Super Bowl along with, is it Katy Perry? Another, yeah, I know. I won't watch any of that. I really won't. But this is the kind of music. They're still doing the same kind of music. Madonna started it. Okay, so you got the Madonna ripoff, Lady Gaga. I mean, she totally sounds exactly like her songs.
She looks a lot like her.
Total Madonna ripoff. So I guess that's the music for the most part. Lisa likes the modern country today.
Oh, modern.
Which is very pop-ish. It doesn't sound all that much like country. And she keeps thinking that she's going to convert me to it. And that's never going to happen. But, I didn't know we were going to go down the whole music factory.
It's funny. Anne Marie is more into electronica. And it's not.
What is that?
Well, is
that like the club music?
It's sort of like that. Orbital is her favorite, and it's I can't explain it any better than I just did. But at first, it was music I wasn't really used to, and but she listens to it all the time. And what happened to me is that music is very nostalgic, and so it reminds you of something. And so now I really like that music. So I think Lisa's onto something now. That I actually went to an Orbital concert last summer. Because they had broken up and they'd gotten back together, and Anne Marie was so excited about going to it. I got to tell you, Barry, this was one of the best times I ever had.
Wow.
First off, the people were all our age, which was surprising to me. And it was in a very intimate venue where there's no seats, just a stage. I was kind of concerned about that. Like, what are we going to do? Stand there the whole time? But everybody's dancing the whole time to this music. And Barry, those were the happiest people I've ever been around in my life. Even church gatherings, I don't know if they were ever that happy before. Every time a new song would come on, somebody would yell out, "Oh my God, I was just thinking about that song." And then they all had like these different groups of people. They all had different, because most of it is just music and there's no lyrics. And but each group had their own words to the different lyrics that they would start singing out loud and laughing. It was around. It was really fun. So I mean, there's hope out there. I know what you mean. I'm just saying that I really was I was moved by being around such happy people. There's just something about being with people that are just so joyful that just it rubs off. Yeah, yep,
It's
it really
contagious.
that was a great time.
Man, I'm a grumpy old man, and I'm trying to get out of that. I told you we actually had a short talk last night, and dark gray January here is so traditionally tough on me because I get that seasonal affective disorder and all of that. So my New Year's resolution was to not drink for January because it's a depressant that adds to all of that.
Yes.
And I recognize I'm a grumpy old man to start off with, and I'm trying to. I'm not really so bad, but the dark days of winter here in Cleveland, where it's can be so gray this time of year, is so bad. So, yeah, I'm trying this route. Increase my vitamin D dosage. Did you get yours by chance?
I took vitamin D today. Yes, we have some in the house, and I never took it before. But you sold me on that.
I'm glad. Yeah, I definitely taken high doses of that this time of year. So trying to increase my positive outlook, and I think it's working. I do. I love January is a slow descent for me.
Barry. It's so dark. I totally agree with you regarding January. I mean, the days are just so short. It was a lot harder in Cleveland because the days are also when cold it is and gray during the day. It's gray, but here. Here it usually rains during January. Most of January it usually rains. This year it hasn't really done that, so we've gotten some good sun. But for me, New Year's, as you were talking about New Year's, New Year's Eve, a lot of people get together and they drink, and I've done that and gone out and partied on New Year's Eve. But then New Year's Day comes, and you've got this hangover. And I got
January 2nd can be depressing, man.
Terrible way to start the year.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I'm the same way. I this year I think I had a glass of champagne at midnight, and that was it, because I wanted to come into the new year just feeling energized about 2020. We did that New Year's Eve show, and I was talking about how much I was looking forward to 2020, and I sure didn't want to wake up the next day feeling like, it's 2020. And I didn't, and I had a great New Year's Day, and on New Year's the second, like you're talking about the second, my brother and I had a brother day, and we spent the whole day together, and we don't get to do that very often because we're both busy and everything. But he had taken that week off, so we spent the day together. We got on our motorcycles, and here's the thing. Is, of course, you're not really having a conversation when you're on your motorcycle. But what we did was we'd ride for like 15 minutes, and we had all these stops that we would make, and then we'd stay there for like an hour. And some places we would go hiking. This place we call the Eagle's Nest, which is on top of this beautiful mountain. We parked up there. We were praising God up there about some really powerful stuff. And we were all by ourselves. While we were doing that, all of a sudden the whole ground started to shake. And it was just like, what is going on? It was so glorious. And we had our eyes closed. And when we said amen, it was two guys on Harleys that had pulled up next to us, and there was rumbling, and then I said amen, and they said amen, and it was just like we had this glorious thing. It was one of the best days of my life, actually.
Wow.
Just hanging out with him and going around to these different places, and so that's the way to start out the new year, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, I got to say that whole January 2nd thing has been a thing with me for the last several years. It's kind of been a more conscious thing that I've realized that maybe I'll do this from now on. I've been, over the last few years, I've been taking a different month for whatever reason during the year, and not drinking during a month. And it was spring before, it was November to mid-November through mid-December, to the New Year's a year or two ago. This is the first time I decided to do all of January, and I kind of like that because of everything we're talking about.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea. I'm not a big drinker. I mean, back in college and everything, I could really throw down, but nowadays, a hangover will last 3 or 4 days. So
Ooh,
this is
oh,
not worth it, you know?
yeah. I like
Uh,
to numb myself during the winter, especially. But which is a bad idea when it's gray and cold and
I
dark.
agree. That doesn't make it any
So
better, right?
exactly. Hey, so we're really running out of time here, and there's other things that I wanted to talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you want to talk about,
We
but
got
it's
current
already.
events that are happening right here
Well,
too
one
that
thing
are
I
pretty
want to talk
serious.
about, whatever you want to talk about with current events for sure, because we got some really important stuff going on with, the impeachment. Finally, they turned the papers over and seem to come up with a new witness or two testifying, as I saw this morning. Also, I wanted to touch on MLK's birthday. Martin Luther King Jr.'s
Yes.
coming up, and I wanted to give him a shout out because I realized I didn't really know much about him outside of I Got a Dream speech. And so I looked up a YouTube video or two on him, and oh my God, what an impressive person. And he got shot. I didn't know this. He got shot, assassinated at 39 years old, so
Right.
young. And he had contributed so much and had so much more that he could have. But I'm just going to say, because I want to hear your take, because I know, is your grandfather Merle
Merle
McCurdy?
McCurdy.
We'll
That's
talk about him
my
in 1 second. I
my
just want to
grandfather.
lay the foundation and say, so MLK Jr. was so smart, he skipped both the ninth and 12th grades and went straight into college from there at 15 years old. I mean,
Hmm.
brilliant guy. And he started the activism. He got really big with the Rosa Parks thing, the lady that wouldn't give up her seat. Was that Alabama or Atlanta at this time? Because he
This is
spent.
Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, okay. So he grew up initially in Atlanta, Georgia, met his wife. They lived most of their adult lives in Alabama, and that's where he did a lot of that activism, which started with standing up. He gained his first fame with the Rosa Parks thing, which it resulted in policy changes. And the last thing I want to say is that he really admired Gandhi's approach to things, and he took that peaceful approach. And I'm just going to say that I don't care if you're arguing with your wife, that you're going to get heard if you use a peaceful approach, and you're going to find opposition if you use an aggressive approach. So
Yeah.
it works on an individual level, and it works on a national level as well. Merle, tell me what you know about MLK and all of the stuff that was going down at that time.
Yeah. So of course, you mentioned Gandhi. MLK was also a Christian minister and he had a church. And so, really, the first lessons that he got in the peaceful, nonviolent approach is from Jesus Christ. And so, Jesus Christ is really his hero. But in history, Gandhi was really making a big wave at the very same time with the peaceful protests and the changes that were happening in India. And so he learned a lot from that as well. So thank God for Martin Luther King. I got to say, what a guy! Amazing accomplishments in such a short period of time. A man of God. We can see that when this is the encouraging thing to me as we take a look at our time today and how our country seems to be in peril. It seems to me that God sends certain people and prepares them for such a time as this to help guide us through these types of things. And certainly Martin Luther King seemed to be that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me and my family, my grandfather, who was he was the first black district attorney in Ohio, the second in the country, Merle McCurdy, as a district attorney working for Robert F. Kennedy as the attorney general, got to work very closely with Martin Luther King and knew him personally. Lots of different work that they actually did together and made a big mark together. The three of them actually made a huge change in America. And interestingly, in 1968, as you know, Martin Luther King was assassinated in April. In May of 1968, Merle McCurdy was also murdered. And then in June of 1968, Robert F. Kennedy was also assassinated. So the three of them went down together. And it's interesting that when you stand for love, and that's what Martin Luther King stood for, and certainly that's what Merle McCurdy stood for as well. And I believe RFK stood for the same thing, and so did Jesus. These things can happen. The world is a fallen world, and it's not run by God. And these are the things that can happen. But what a lasting legacy. They made their lives count for something that we can look back on and we can gain strength from. And that's really what life is all about. As we look at how the civil rights movement evolved, that is the part that I'm very much concerned about. Guys like Jesse Jackson, who were standing right next to Martin Luther King when he was assassinated on that balcony. I don't believe that Martin Luther King would have been very impressed with where he took the civil rights movement, because as we look at it today, it's a movement of entitlement. And as I look at things like the Black Lives Matters movement, I, as a black man, am embarrassed by that. And I believe that if Martin Luther King and Merle McCurdy and RFK could see what they've turned this into, they'd be rolling over in their graves, because what they stood for was equality. As I mentioned in the last show, my favorite quote from Martin Luther King is that he had a dream that one day people would be judged by the content of their character as opposed to the color of their skin. I remember seeing Bernie Sanders up there, and I'm not a big fan of Bernie Sanders, but I heard him say something that I agree with, and he said, all lives matter. And I agree with that. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, yellow, blue, or green. All lives, human lives matter. There's a sanctity to life. And I remember that was during a campaign speech he was making, and the Black Lives Matters people stormed the stage, took the microphone away from him, and shouted him down and said, Black Lives Matters. And I got to say, I vehemently disagree with that type of bigotry.
Segregating themselves right there. You know?
Yeah, it's too bad, but the truth is that all lives matter.
No, I absolutely agree. And there's been this movement that I believe started largely with Obama, but I think it got magnified by social media emerging during the same time. And that is segregating everybody by race and sex in every which way you can. The Democrat, and I voted for Obama the first time, and I regretted it shortly thereafter because I saw this happening. And geez, I forgot where I was going with that. But I agree with you. I don't want to hear that I should vote for somebody because they're a woman or because of the race of them. I want the most qualified person that can do the best job for our country. America first. You said that to me last night. I'm America first. And I certainly agree. Hey, I wanted to ask you something just real quick. This isn't the most important lesson that we can get out of the MLK thing, but between your grandfather, MLK, and RFK, all within 3 months getting assassinated, what's the conspiracy theory there, or I should say theory on who contributed to these assassinations? Do you know?
No. There's a lot of speculation on that whole thing. There's a million different stories. I happen to know, what my family says about what happened with Merle McCurdy, but, there's always a yin and a yang, a good and a bad, a light and a dark. We live in a fallen world. We look at James Earl Ray, who was the one who assassinated Martin Luther King, and he was just a plain old bigot and didn't like what was going on there and didn't want to have that happening. And people have tried to assign a conspiracy theory. Some have even said Jesse Jackson may have been involved in that. I don't know about that whole thing. But wherever there is good, there is evil there too that doesn't appreciate that wants to take that down. But I got to tell you, I know that even though they were shot down, I as a Christian also believe that there the three of them are still alive in heaven, and they made their lives count for something that it wouldn't have counted for had they not been martyred. And so that's kind of how I see things. And I'm just not so sure about any of these conspiracy theories. By the way, my grandfather, Merle McCurdy, was on the Warren Commission, and the Warren Commission was out to find out what actually happened during the JFK assassination. And so there's a lot of conspiracy theories around that, because a lot of the people on the Warren Commission also mysteriously died. So just like Lee Harvey Oswald and then Jack Ruby, a lot of it seemed like people were trying to get rid of the evidence.
I see. There's a lot of things I could extrapolate from there. I mean, I really, really wish that MLK had a couple more decades in him. I think we needed him that badly, as evidenced by today.
At the same time, though, Barry, if you take a look at the results of what happened with Martin Luther King, I mean, by the 80s, Black people were living in a golden age, and that had everything to do with the work that Martin Luther King did, along with my grandfather and RFK and many, many, many other people. So
that's a good point.
Even though things have become a bit corrupted, much of what he had done, I would say the good far outweighs any of the bad.
I see your point. In a way, his assassination put an exclamation point on the efforts that he made to that point, which carry forward into today. So we are just over an hour now, Merle, and I think that you probably have several other things in current events you'd like to talk about. I don't know if you want to talk about the impeachment, what is starting to go on. I don't know how much more we know as of today. Go ahead.
We really don't. I mean, the impeachment is, it's actually nothing much has happened except for the resolution to move it forward to the House, to the Senate. And that's happening. I believe right when I was coming up here, the Chief Justice who's going to moderate the whole thing was being sworn in for this. So this is happening. We'll just have to see how this whole thing goes. But I thought it was interesting at the same time that Nancy Pelosi was up there talking about how we must impeach this president. The president was actually signing the China deal, the China trade deal. I mean, he just keeps rolling along with all of the promises that he made. He with the promise, the NAFTA, getting rid of NAFTA and redoing that between Mexico and Canada. He was able to accomplish that. So I'm not really sure how he's doing it, but these are all very good things for America. And I just want to say this as far as the impeachment goes. From my point of view, I'm a constitutional fan. That's who I'm for. And as long as the president is following the Constitution and also doing the things that he promised during the campaign that we elected him for, then I'm going to be for him. But once he steps outside of that, I'm not going to be for him. So far, what I've seen is a concentrated effort to get rid of him. But I'm not seeing where he's stepped outside of the Constitution or that he has shirked any of his responsibilities as far as his campaign promises. So I think he's doing a pretty good job. The other thing I wanted to bring up was this whole thing that happened with Iran and Soleimani and how, it's a terrible thing that we had to eliminate him. But at the same time, it's a terrible thing that he had done to many of the children of parents here in the United States, blowing them up with improvised explosive devices or IEDs. That was his claim to fame. In fact, one of our congressmen is missing an eye, the one down in Texas, because of Soleimani. And as a result, the next thing you saw was all these protests, or I'm sorry, the funeral where 1 billion people showed up in Iran. But remember, only a month before that, the Iranians were killing people in the street for not wearing the hijab. 1,500 people were shot in the head before that. So, of course, they're going to show up. When the government says show up for this funeral, they're not going to stay home. They don't want to get a bullet in the head. And then the very next thing we see is we see the people of Iran standing up to this oppressive government that has held them under their oppression for over 40 years now. And finally, seeing that America believes in freedom and will stand up for it, it's encouraged them to be able to do that too. And I think we saw the same video, Barry, where these protesters were refusing to walk on the American or Israeli flag.
I saw that.
Very, very encouraging to me. And it's just like Ronald Reagan said, is that we're supposed to be the shining house upon the hill that others see and say, we can do that too. And I'm feeling this great hope for the Iranian people.
Wow, that's really something powerful to say. And yeah, I saw that video on YouTube, but I want to tell you, I'll bet you if you're getting your news off mainstream media, you know nothing about what we're talking about. That's my guess. I mean,
you're probably right. So we're getting the word out.
Right. Yeah. So yeah. Go people of Iran. I really, we cannot house everybody. There's such over the last 4 years, coincidentally, last 3.5 years, there's been such a debate about how we're supposed to have open borders and bring everybody in here. We cannot house all the oppressed people in the world. We need these countries to help themselves and to overthrow these regimes, to better themselves. My God, I'd love it if we annexed Mexico. I'd like to move down there, if it became part of the United States, if they wanted to partake. It is so overtaken with the cartels. It is run by the cartels today. True. And it's just another problem that we have. And that's one thing that makes me feel like we're just still so primitive as a world. We always think that we're so evolved. And when I think about these things, when we talk about these things, I just think that we got a long ways to go. When we finally do have world peace, won't be in our lifetimes, but that would be something miraculous, to say the least. All right, man, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. That's a little long for us. Any parting words? Any final things that you want? Hey, you know what? I had up here, I wanted to ask you about it because I have very little to say about or think about this, but you got any opinion on the whole Megxit thing?
I saw that coming a mile away, boy. I was like, Harry, what are you getting into here, baby? This is over your head, man. I mean, first off, I got a lot to say about that, but I just want to say, I saw that coming a mile away. And I pray for the royal family because, man, they're having some issues here, but we'll see what happens. I mean,
hey, they may move in next to her.
Well, that would be weird. I like Harry. I think Harry's a good guy. I don't agree with his politics. I've always liked him as a little, ever since he was a little kid. We've watched these kids grow up. But it seemed to me when he married Meghan that he bit off more than he could chew. She's a royal activist. She had daddy issues already, and here she is in the royal family. Didn't invite her dad to the wedding. I saw that as a pretty large red flag. Like, there's family problems in her family. She's probably going to bring those problems into their family.
Oh, interesting take on that. See, I've never followed them. I've never had any interest in the royal thing. What little I skim headlines and I see the whole Meghan thing, what little I know about, she seems like the Colin Kaepernick of the royal family to me.
Yeah. And she's beautiful. I mean, let's face it. She is a beautiful woman, but what I've learned is that, there's beauty on the outside and then there's beauty on the inside. And all I know about Meghan is she's beautiful on the outside. But if you're really looking for real beauty, find the beauty on the inside first. And it usually emanates to the outside.
Good one. Love that. All right, man. We got to sign off. A great episode, a little less structured than usual, just a big BS fest of ours.
Fun.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, if you want to leave a comment, maybe have us discuss something, ask a question, over50startingover.com, spell that all out. That's the best place to start. You can both subscribe to our audio and our YouTube from there. Our links are there, but you could also mail us. The link is there, mail at over50startingover.com. And certainly if you want to comment on our YouTube channel, you can do that as well. But please subscribe. If you subscribe to our audio, give us a 5-star rating. That goes a long way. We want to share all of this with a lot more people. All right, Merle.
All right.
Talk to you next week, right?
Bye con Dios.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.